It is February and you may think it is too late to set goals. In fact, that may not be true or factual. You can set goals throughout the years as you like, and the goals can last 12 weeks in 12-week cycles. And that's what this video is about, exploring the Coda version of the goal setting toolkit template that is all-in-one Coda doc, where you can set, track, manage, and review your goals throughout the years in one single place using Coda automations, tables, and many buttons and dashboards to review your data. The first page, the Coda goal setting toolkit doc, is a dashboard, and as such, this is an aggregated view of data from different tables in the system. So at the very top, you can quickly add a goal. You can also add a random reward. This button is only clickable if you actually do today's action tracking. If not, that is not clickable, because rewards can only be generated when you make progress towards a certain goal. On the right hand side, you can find today's action trackings for as many goals that you have. Depending on when you need to track them, you will have multiple or one cards where you can track the habit or the micro action that you have done towards that goal or not. This refreshes on a daily basis, and the action trackings are created via an automation in the system that you can find here at the very top on the right hand side. You can find here a description of the automation and what it does exactly. And for each day of pursuit, it creates a new goal action tracking, because each goal has specific days of the week that you can define as to when you are going to actually take action on that goal. On the left hand side here, right below the main buttons, you can find the daily goal highlight. And the idea is that every day this refreshes so that you can click the add button and write up exactly what's the focus of today. And every day you can write it up yourself instead of having just a sticky note of sorts where you can just see the current pursuit goal, because the post-it note effect might take place after a while, meaning that you can become numb to the presence of that goal on your dashboard that becomes part of the environment. But today I can click the new button and you can see that the system already tells me what's the current pursuit goal that I have in the system, that is conclude writing the full first draft of the book. I know that this is the current goal that I'm pursuing based on the status of goals that we're going to see later in the system. But if I want, I can change this up with the focus of the day exactly, so that that stays up and front on the dashboard right here at the top left corner of that dashboard. And down below I can see the current goals. These are all those goals that have a status of current pursuit, which I can open quickly from here to see more details. On here there is a line chart of completed action trackings by day. So for each day that is on the x-axis, you can see the total action trackings that were marked as done. For example, today you can see there is 0 actions marked as done. But if I were to go here and mark this as done, then there will become 1. And besides this current dashboard showing the relevant data, you can see specific dashboards for each key component of the system, starting from the annual reflection. That is a way where every year you can review the past year and reflect on things that you can do to improve in the upcoming. For example, the 2023 annual reflection, you can open that page and you can see here all the goals for that year. In this case, that is empty, but you can also select goals from the goals table. And down here, there is a template that is automatically applied whenever you create a new row in the annual reflection table. And you can find a few questions which you can answer here. And over time, you can develop this storage record log of all your annual reflections and see possible patterns that you have based on the same exact questions that you can ask yourself every year to review the past year, learn from it. On the goal setting dashboard, you can find your total active goals. That is a formula, so it's automatic based on the goals that are in the current pursuit status. Here there is an arbitrary number that is, if it is greater than 3, then you would see a warning right here as a message, because pursuing more than 3 goals at the same time might stretch you too thin and you may not be able to focus and achieve actually any of those goals properly within the time frame required. So that is just a warning. And you can see here, for example, if I were to add a new goal and the status is current pursuit, this will increase to 3, so it's still green and it says way to go. And if I add a new one and it is current pursuit, now it is 4, it becomes red and it gives you a status message that is a sort of warning. Then you can decide to adjust accordingly if you want to reprioritize your goals and actually decide to move them to not now, maybe in the future. They are still in the system, but in that case, you can then reprioritize them at the end of the 12-week cycle, for example, which is every quarter. For each goal, you can also open the row and you can here type notes about it. You can set the status, as we saw also on the table view. The tracking progress is a percentage that is automatic based on how many trackings you did, so you checked off as done, over the total trackings over time for that goal. And here you can then select the days of pursuit. So when exactly during the week, on which exact days are you going to take action in the form of a habit or a specific task that you're doing every day or every other day or 2 times a week, however often it is most appropriate based on the goal. And that's where you can select those days. And whenever you see the tooltip, there is a description of the column. So you can hover over them to see more details about what that means in the system and if there are any implications as to how things work. When it comes to the days of pursuit column, whenever you select the days in here, the automation that we have in the doc will recognize those days. Every day at 9 a.m. GMT +1, it will run an action that is pushing buttons, and the button is in the goals table. The button is called track action, and that button is only clickable when the days of pursuit contains today. For example, today is Friday as I'm recording this, and I know that this goal is to be pursued on Fridays as well. So the automation at 9 a.m. GMT +1, which you can also change the time zone if you want on the automation that I showed you earlier, it will create a new page in the dedicated table that is called action tracking, and that new row will be displayed in the dashboard under the today's action trackings, as well as on the main action tracking dashboard and on the table with all the action trackings. This ensures that you do not need to create a new row every day to track your actions, but rather the page is created for you and you just need to check off the box or leave it empty depending on whether you did that action or not. Because eventually the purpose of this is that tracking habits and establishing habits to achieve a goal is the way forward, because habits compound progress over time. And that is why this automation exists, and that is why we define exactly the days of pursuit of the goal, and in particular of the micro actions, because as part of the goal setting process, you can break down the goal into the specific actions that you will perform and that are required on a regular basis to achieve that goal. For example, this sample goal is conclude writing the full first draft of the book. That happens in 12 weeks. So that's a 12-week cycle, which of course you can change here if you like. You can extend to further weeks and the end date will be automatically updated based on this. You can also define the start date right here. For example, February 5th. You can define the weeks. The end date is automatic. The days per week are automatic as well, depending on the days of pursuit that you select. The total days, that's a formula as well, so it's automatic depending on the duration of the goal, as well as how many days per week you pursue that. And in here, you can define how many hours a day will you commit to taking action towards this goal, however small that action is. So on average, how many hours per day? And that's where you can define that as a number right there. Finally, you can define exactly, are you tracking? What is success in tracking this goal? And for example, KPI, so the key performance indicator for concluding writing the full first draft of the book, might be tracking the writing time per day. So if I write for at least 30 minutes per day, the tracking is successful, and so we will mark it as done in the system. So knowing exactly what success looks like on a daily basis is very important in the system to make sure that you can track exactly what you do without overthinking every day and trying to conceptualize what making progress toward the goal or not means. And in here, in this text column, you can also set the major blockage and how you will overcome that. So that is a sort of premeditatio mori, as the Stoics would put it, where you may reflect on what might go wrong, for example, in advance. But most importantly, in the major blockage, you reflect about what obstacles are getting in your way of achieving this goal and what are you going to do about them. This is a way to understand maybe obstacles that might be under your control and other obstacles that are not under your control. And then you can integrate them within your persona and understand that those are the obstacles and that you can take actions or not, depending on the type of obstacle and circumstances, to prevent those from happening or to make sure that you put yourself in the best possible spot for you to succeed in achieving this goal. Here you can list all the micro actions that this goal involves. In this case, for example, writing at least 30 minutes every day, starting at 7 a.m. is a micro action that I know will contribute to the achievement of the goal. And if there are other micro actions, then you can list them here, and the more specific, the better. For example, here we have an action that is writing. We have a time frame for at least 30 minutes. We have specific days every day, and we have a specific time of the day starting at 7 a.m. So that right there is a habit, essentially, that I can establish. Every day I know that at 7 a.m. we'll sit down, stand up, and start writing whatever tool I need to use to do that. And if I do it for at least 30 minutes, that is success towards this goal. If I do not do it for minimum 30 minutes, then it may mean that that is not success for that day, and I can keep going and moving on to the next day or whenever I have time to do that. And finally, each goal has action trackings, and we already touched on this earlier briefly. These action trackings are created automatically every day, but nothing prevents you from also creating them manually from here, add new from the dashboard, either from the action tracking dashboard or table. And each action tracking has the status or checkbox done, the day, which is automatic, and you can also link the specific micro action that you did. So for example, if you're tracking the conclude writing the full first draft of the book goal, you might track specifically what micro action you did for that day, or are you tracking for that day. So if a goal has multiple micro actions, then you can track multiple actions. And that is what the goal page looks like and is composed of. In here, you also have quick filters, and these are often visible on all the dashboards, so you will find them across all the systems in this doc. And finally, action tracking. That is where you can see this week's action trackings. You can also see the total actions done this week over the total ones. So one action done, as you can see here, one is checked, one is not checked. So 1 over 2, it is 50% of this week's total action trackings. Finally, the database is where all the tables of this system are stored. The tables are exactly what I showed you so far, and they're just here to make sure that they are centralized in a place. And if you want to make any edits, you can go to the source table. You can also make edits to the views of those tables in the different dashboards that I showed you earlier. But as a user, unless you want to change something or do some work, these tables do not matter much to you, because you can access them from all the dashboards that we saw earlier. And so you can work directly from there without having to come here to the source table. But if you want, these are available and accessible to you, and these might be useful over time if you want to review all the data that you have in the entire system. You can open the goal table, for example, and see everything. You can search across goals. You can filter by the start date, by the status, by the end date, and others. And finally, a reward for random rewards. So this can be generated from the dashboard, and when the today's tracking is done, then you can generate a random reward, and this is going to be random. So it is either hand or tail. If it is hand, it's going to be reward yourself. That's the outcome. So here you can associate the goal that involves this reward. And here you can write down notes, for example, what the reward will be, the outcome was hand, or what you intend to do, or any journaling notes, anything that you need. So every time it is going to be random. And here, depending on the outcome, if it is hand, it's going to be reward yourself. If it is tail, there's going to be a different message that says, just continue with your day with the next action. That's it. You've done your job. And that concludes the goal setting toolkit Coda doc with all the features, dashboards, and actions that you can take on the doc to keep track and document your journey towards achieving goals and eventually pursuing the desires that you think you want at any given time.